to confirm that we have a quorum present, and hopefully another member or two will be joining us as we go forward. Has everyone had a chance to look at the draft minutes? Are there any changes to the minutes? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Duggan. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Tweedy. Okay, so with that, we're going to go ahead and move to our, oh, I'm sorry, and vote, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, we're going to go ahead and move to our action items. And the first one is a presentation from Michelle Roquet regarding the biennial report on the progress in developing and implementing basin water resources management plans. So welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, and good morning, Commission members. Today I'm here to present our biennial report to the Environmental Review Commission on basin-wide water resource management plans. This is a joint report from the Commission and the Department that is submitted to the ERC. We'll review the purpose of the report, the progress made in developing and implementing basin plans and hydrologic models, and we'll conclude with a few statewide numbers. Per statute, the Commission and the Department are to report on or before November 1st of even-numbered years on the progress in developing and implementing basin-wide water quality management plans, or basin plans. The report should include information about public involvement and public education in connection with developing our basin plans, and a statement on water quality and quantity identified during the course of preparing those plans. Per statute 143-355B, the Department is also required to report on the development of hydrologic models in this same report. This year's report focuses on developing and implementing basin plans between July 1st of 2022 and June 30th of 2024. We'll be highlighting work in progress that has been made in the Yadkin, Cape Fear, and Broad River basins. Each of the following slides are set up in a similar format. The format of the report is also structured in this same format, where we cover plan development, where we are with plan development, our public involvement and engagement piece, and then a statement about water quality and quantity. The Yadkin PD River Basin Plan was presented and approved by the Water Quality Committee in July of 2022. Special attention was paid to High Rock Lake, where nutrients and algal blooms have been identified as parameters of interest, and the Rocky River watershed, which is a very urbanized watershed, which includes the Charlotte-Mecklenburg area. Basin planners worked with stakeholders in the basin via phone calls, emails, as well as virtual and in-person meetings. And since the plan development, basin planners have also participated in several stakeholder meetings throughout the basin. Persistent water quality problems noted. Current projected water use is projected to meet demands through the year 2060. Basin planners continue to work on the fourth update to the Cape Fear River Basin Plan. The plan will focus on the chemical, physical, and biological impairments in the basin, and where more information is needed to assess those impacts from point and non-point sources of pollution. We are also working with several divisions within the department to report on emerging contaminants within the basin. Basin planners, in partnership with the Cape Fear River Assembly, developed and distributed a stakeholder engagement survey. The survey included questions about what concerns each may have about water resources in the basin, where there are challenges and possible solutions. Not all questions or concerns will be addressed in the basin plan, but the survey did help us with identifying additional concerns, and it also helped the Cape Fear River Assembly on where they need to address some educational and outreach efforts. A summary of the survey results will be included in the basin plans. Basin planners are also participated in several stakeholder and coalition meetings over the past several years to inform them on the progress and gain input into the plan. Persistent water quality problems with nutrients are discussed throughout each of the watershed chapters, and the plan will include water use and demand as reported to programs managed by DEQ and the Agricultural Water Use Survey. Basin planners have also been actively working on the fourth update to the Broad River Basin Plan. Much of the plan will focus on chemical, physical, and biological impairments in areas where more information is needed to assess point and non-point sources of pollution. Basin planners have been available by phone and have attended virtual and in-person meetings to discuss issues in the basin. Basin planners have also participated in field tours and met with stakeholders to see some of the issues firsthand. Biological integrity for benthic macroinvertebrates and fish communities make up the majority of the impairments in the basin. Turbidity, fecal coliform bacteria, nutrients, and temperature are also a concern. The plan will include water use and demands as reported for two programs managed by DEQ and the Agricultural Water Use Survey. Chemical, physical, and biological parameters are assessed regularly by DWR to determine how well water bodies are meeting their best intended uses. These assessments are submitted to the Environmental Protection Agency to fulfill reporting requirements for sections 303D and 305B of the Clean Water Act. With the help of the modeling and assessment branch, we included the number of assessment units that are meeting or exceeding numeric or narrative water quality standards as part of a statement on statewide water quality conditions. Statewide, nearly half of the impairments identified on the 2022 303D list are in shellfish growing areas. 80 assessment units are on the list for one or more metals, and all waters continue to be impaired for mercury in fish tissue. Links to DWR's water quality assessment are included in the report.
Question.
Yes.
That last bullet, does that mean all waters in the state, or is that referring back up to the bullet above the 80 that exceeded metals?
80 assessment units are on the 303D list for metals. Is that what you're referring to?
The last bullet.
The last
says
bullet.
all
Yes.
waters.
All waters continue to be impaired for mercury for fish tissue. We just don't put that number in the report or in the assessment. It's just a blanket statement that all waters are impaired for
All
mercury.
waters across North Carolina.
Based on fish tissue assessments and advisories.
All right, thank you.
The EQ continues to make progress on developing and implementing basin-wide water resource management plans. Actually, that is not what I want to do yet. I want to do hydrologic models. Let me back up a second. OASIS hydrologic models have been completed for 11 of the 17 river basins. The Tarr-Pamlico, Roanoke, Broad, and French Broad are independent models. Combined models exist for the Cape Fear Neuse, New Watauga, Yadkin, and Lumber. For the Catawba, a hydrologic model is available through KEOPS. The KEOPS model is currently being updated by the Catawba Water Management Group and is expected to be completed in 2025 and will be shared with DEQ upon its completion. Between 2022 and 2024, DWR migrated all of the existing hydrologic models to a new independent server. All of the existing models are available to anyone who requests access. Between 2022 and 2024, DWR also evaluated data management workflows to create a more efficient process for gathering information for future updates to the hydrologic models. So we continue to make progress on developing and implementing our basin plans. We noted in the report that basin planners have also made progress on recommendations made in previous plans, which include working with our wastewater programs and providing comments on permit renewals and continuing to support stakeholders who are relying on the plans to communicate water resource issues in their region. Over the course of the next year, basin planners were focused on releasing the Broad and the Cape Fear basin plans for public review and comment. And we're going to move into cycle 5. We'll begin cycle 5 with the Little Tennessee, Hiwassee, and Savannah River basins. The biennial report includes a targeted time frame for upcoming plans as well as current basin liaisons. And I wanted to give a special thank you to Commissioner Deerhay for helping us put together and review this report. The Division of Water Resources requests the approval to proceed to the full EMC with the 2022-2024 biennial report on the progress in developing basin-wide water resources management plans to the Environmental Review Commission. And with that, I will take any questions.
Seeing no questions, would one of the committee members, care to make a motion? Mr. Deering.
I move that we use this version and proceed to delivery for the ERC's review. Is that adequate?
We typically go to the full EMC
EMC.
and then get their approval to proceed to ERC.
Well, then my motion is that the draft or the proposed report proceed to the EMC for review to approve to carry to the North Carolina General Assembly's Environmental Review Commission.
And we are on the agenda tomorrow to present to the full EMC if it is approved through this committee today.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Carter, thank you. Seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you.
Okay, that was our only action item this morning, but we do have an IBET update from Harold Brady in the form of an information item. So we'll welcome Harold to the podium.
Thank you, everyone, for letting me speak today. I've given a PowerPoint presentation, I think, at every WAC meeting for the past year now. So this is going to be a much more brief IBT update. I'm going to jump into what's up on the screen right here. Last Friday, we received the notice of intent, the NOI, from the town of Mooresville. They are looking at an interbasin transfer as an alternative, as a potential alternative that they'll be evaluating. Moving water, they source their water from the Catawba, from Lake Norman, and they discharge. They have a wastewater plant in the Rocky River Basin. So that would be an interbasin transfer. Let's see here. So that came in last Friday, September 6th. This would be, if this is the alternative that they want to follow, this would be a full process. They have an existing grandfathered, pre-existing allocation allowance of 9.5. That's based on a max day. When you do the conversion, it comes out to be about 8 MGD is what they currently have an allowance for a pre-existing allocation. They are, because of their growth, and actually their growth, looking at their local water supply plan, is fairly modest, considering looking at the communities around the area and across the state. Looking out 30 years, they're looking at, say here, 12.5, 12.6 MGD would be their proposal. Right now, that's what they're looking with their NOI. There would be public meetings associated with this because it is the full process. They're looking at between 4 and 5 public meetings, which certainly meets the standards for the statute. There would be at least one down in South Carolina in the Catawba Basin, and then another 3 or 4 in North Carolina. They have been speaking with us as well as talking to South Carolina DES. There's been significant cooperation, as well as the Catawba and the Yadkin water management groups that they've spoken to about this. Are there any questions on the town of Mooresville's proposal?
So, may I?
Yes.
Thank you. We talk about discharge into the Rocky River, but just for the public's information, the Rocky River is in the Yadkin PD River Basin, the larger river basin, so one of the 17.
That is correct. Thank you for that, Commissioner Deerhage. Yes, so the Yadkin is the major basin, and the Rocky River Basin is a sub basin. Following, and the Catawba is the major basin that they pull out of Lake Norman. So this would be between 2 major basins.
Right.
An environmental impact statement would be required for this process once they get past those initial public meetings and scoping meetings for that.
And in a larger context, the Yadkin PD River Basin is going through basin plan renewal right now. Is that correct? It's in public process.
The Yadkin is the.
Are we finished with the renewal? I'm sorry.
The Yadkin?
Yes.
Yes, the
We
Yadkin.
are finished.
Yes.
It's the
Yadkin was
nutrient rules that maybe are still actively.
in High Rock Lake?
Yes.
Yes, there's
that
active
work.
stakeholder engagement process happening with High Rock Lake right
Right.
now.
Right, but one of the key points that maybe Ms. Marquet can stand up here real quick. One of the key points that came out of that basin plan is focus on the Rocky River and its water quality.
Correct. That was one of the focus pieces, and in that basin plan was the concerns about nutrients and nutrient enrichment throughout that entire subbasin.
Right, okay, thank you.
I would be remiss if I hadn't mentioned that the service area in Mooresville, it actually covers 3 basins. It's within the Catawba, as well as the Rocky, as well as the South Yadkin. So there would be some consumptive loss in the South Yadkin River Basin as well that would be included in any kind of request for an interbasin transfer.
Yes, Commissioner Clooney has.
Can you remind us one more time, typical timeline for this process? Years, right?
Right, we're talking years.
2 to 4?
The full process, I would say 3 at a minimum. And then after that, it can take considerably more than that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Other questions? Brady? Yes.
Since he's here, we have not met since the Morganton public meeting, have we? That was in July, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So maybe he could report on the Morganton public meeting about the basin transfer that Charlotte is requesting.
Absolutely.
Just a quick summary.
Absolutely. I was going to go into a little bit on Charlotte Water, kind of where they are right now in their process. So they finished all of the public meetings for their NOI. And so Charlotte Water is a modification because they already have an existing certificate. So there's a modification that they're, so I want to make sure it's a little bit different than Mooresville. Mooresville will be a full process. Charlotte Water is a modification. So they finished their, I'm going to look at my notes real quick. They finished their round of public meetings. They did 7 public meetings in both South Carolina and North Carolina. The last 2 were in Rock Hill and the one that you mentioned, Commissioner Deerhake, in Morganton. It was great attendance at all the meetings. I think more than I've ever seen in any of the public meetings for IBTs and in my time doing this work for these initial public meetings. So both upstream of Charlotte as well as downstream of Charlotte, people are very interested in this proposed project. Just a reminder of what the numbers that they're looking at. They have an existing certificate of 33 MGD that they transfer from the Catawba to the Rocky, the Yadkin major basin. And they are, right now, they're looking at numbers around 30 MGD to add to that for that modification. I want to be clear here, those values are all based on max day. The certificate, if it was modified, would be, the statistic used would be an average day over a max month. So you would expect that number to be lower, but equivalent on the statistically. So some quick numbers on what the meetings, the statistics from the meetings. So there were 646 people who attended that in person in these 7 meetings. 164 people remotely joined in. So all the meetings were held on Zoom as well, so people could join online. And as the public comment period closed on October 30th, so just last week, and there were 199 comments received. And that also includes resolutions. There were, I believe, 30-some resolutions from local communities opposing the Charlotte Water modification. The next steps are what we're referring to as a facilitated stakeholder meetings. So this is something new we haven't tried before. Charlotte Water wants to give this a good try to pull together stakeholder engagement meetings that are facilitated in both in the Yadkin and in the Catawba and the Yadkin basins. They will also be working closely with the Catawba Water Management Group, as well as the Yadkin PD Water Management Group. Not through that. Following these stakeholder meetings, they'll be working on the environmental impact statement. The environmental impact statement is required by the settlement agreement between North Carolina and South Carolina for these interbasin transfers. Any questions on Charlotte Water?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, so both Charlotte and Mooresville want to increase transfers from the Catawba to the Rocky.
That is correct.
So like, will they be kind of considered in combination, or in Mooresville puts forward their proposal? Will it also consider the scenario of Charlotte moving ahead with its plans?
So they will not be working, they're two separate projects. Obviously, they're going to be working concurrently, moving concurrently together, and there will be an alternative. They've looked into if Mooresville were to connect with Charlotte, and so an alternative that might combine that. But that is one of the a dozen or so alternatives that would be evaluated. From their water lines, it would actually be a pretty considerable water line to connect them, from what I understand. So the cost of that may not, and the cost benefit of doing something like that may not bear fruit. But that's the purpose of the environmental impact statement, to kind of see if that does bear some fruit. Yeah, but it is very much the same. They're withdrawing out of the Catawba and they're discharging into the Rocky, both projects.
Yes, Commissioner
So,
Gray.
so I appreciate that question. What I'm thinking when I hear that question is, since Charlotte came first, and if that gets processed first, but we don't know that it will because so many things could happen along the way. But will both requests consider, as part of, say, their baseline, the impacts of the other communities' discharge and withdrawal too?
Right, and that's a great question. So one of the reasons that I've been told why they're coming in at about the same time is the KEOPS hydrologic model has just been revised. The revision has just been complete in advance of the integrated water plan that the Catawba Water Management Group is required to do. And so the tool to measure at least the hydrologic impacts is now ready to be used. And so in that model, they use the projections, 30, 50, I think it goes out even more than 50 years in the KEOPS projections. And so those projections for Mooresville will certainly be in the model for Charlotte when they run the model, and the vice versa. When Charlotte runs the model, Mooresville's projections will be in that KEOPS model.
Projections for withdrawal, but what about projections for impact to the Rocky?
Projections so then they would have to, if we're talking water quality, then there would need to be some water quality evaluations done that are outside of that KEOPS model. But that would need to be done for the environmental.
For the EIS, yes.
For the EIS, that would need to be done. The statute's pretty clear that is to look at both water quantity and quality for both the source and receiving basins.
Question statement. I would say this, Harold, they're about to have facilitated sessions in the basin about this before the EIS. I think you probably just heard enough from the EMC to enter that into a comment that as the people granting the ultimate petition, we have concerns about both of these being done on a similar timeline, and how would that be reflected in the EIS? So that may be a comment you could take even before the facilitated groups.
Understood, will do.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for the comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Solomon. I had a similar question regarding the facilitated stakeholder meeting, since it hasn't been done before, and was curious about any role for this committee, or certainly for the prior EMCs. I think his comment is, Chairman Solomon's comment is well taken. Has there been any, I know the meeting is going to take place prior to the EIS. Can you just talk a little bit about the genesis for the facilitated stakeholder meeting? I don't think it is it articulated in the statute, or this is something that's come out of the experience of the department?
This came out of the experience from the public meetings.
Okay.
There was clearly considerable interest from the public. But as I mentioned, as I mentioned before, the numbers of attendees at this very early stage, I just haven't seen before. That's really where this proposal is. And the details of these facilitated stakeholder meetings is not entirely worked out yet. I will say, I don't know all the details of how this will work. I do know that they have somebody under contract and a firm under contract to pull this together. But the details are still, I don't know yet.
So we don't know if it will be a mediator or exactly how it will be carried out. Because
Well,
the applicant is arranging for this process.
Well, there'll be a facilitator. It will be an organized, facilitated stakeholder engagement as to what their concerns are. But the people who've been the selection criteria for the stakeholder engagement meetings, that's yet to be determined, at least that I'm aware of.
Yeah, just comment, and again, I don't know how they're moving this, but I've been the facilitator for these at a federal EIS level, like for the Progress Energy COLA, when they were looking at expanding nuclear. What we were doing was trying to get ahead in the EIS as to because we had an EIS, we knew there may need to be mitigation strategies. And so we were trying to bring the stakeholders together, not to get too far away, but to try to feel out as we go through the EIS, where are the points of contention and consensus, even beyond identifying the impacts, but even into the mitigation strategies, so that we can get buy-in early. So I don't think it's a formal process, but I think it's an information gathering thing to get these disparate parties in the room. And again, I've done it before myself, and I think it's very helpful. I think it's at a federal level, it was helpful.
Good morning, Chair Weiss. My name is Linwood Peel. I'm the supervisor for the Water Supply Planning Branch, and Harold is exactly right. But I want to step back a second and give you an idea of why they think this is a great idea. The public meetings in the past, Harold is exactly right. It would be staff, applicants, and consultants. This is the first time we've had where you have 150 people at a public meeting, and they felt that this process was too early in the process, the public meetings. It was nothing for them to comment on. So out of that, this stemmed a stakeholders group. And you're right, we're going outside of the statute with this. The applicant feel this is the way to get this done. But we were told, and many times, that we're coming to a meeting asking people to input on something they don't have anything to input on. So that stemmed the stakeholders process.
Thank you for elaborating on that, Mr. Peel. And I guess alongside that, then something that occurs to me is, while it will be this selection of stakeholders who will be participating hasn't been made, however, it seems like since it's a public process, I would be interested at some point to understand that selection process a little bit better, because it's coming out of public meetings, and so the public will need to keep having their input and being brought up to date to answer the very questions that you're referring to.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
can I ask, once these meetings with the stakeholders are set and the location is set, is there a possibility that you can kind of send out to, especially me, that I can get it into my calendar? Because I'd like to, and I'm assuming there'll be a Zoom function as well. In that area, I'll be able to hopefully attend in person, but if at all possible, if you can send out the times and the locations of those meetings, that would be very helpful.
Absolutely. I'll definitely inform the committee of when decisions are made on the stakeholder engagement meetings. Yeah. So
Fantastic. Thank you.
everybody know and to be invited.
Any more questions for Mr. Brady on the IBT process, general or specific? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Brady.
And there,
Appreciate you staying on top of all these moving parts.
I appreciate one, there's one more IBT, the Fuquay-Varina interbasin transfer. And just real quick, we're still working on finalizing the draft EIS that would go out to the public.
I see Chairman Solomon has a comment.
Just didn't know if council wanted to add any comment here to, okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, right, that concludes all of our business this morning. Let's see, turn to Director Rogers for any of the remarks.
I have no remarks to the committee at this time. I'll have remarks tomorrow to the EMC. Thank you.
All right. I'll keep my closing remarks short. Thank you to Ms. Kay for her presentation and talking us through what's going on with the biennial evaluations, and always appreciate the timely updates from Mr. Brady on these IBTs. I know there's a great deal of interest and surrounding them. So thank you to staff. And with that, I will see if I have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Dugan. Second.
Second.
All right. Thanks, Commissioner Tweedy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the meeting's adjourned.